Hello and welcome to another weekly energy forecast. So, in these sessions, we have a little look at the energy of the seasons, the astrological energy of the week, and also the energy of the moon phase, and how all of these layer on top of each other to create our experience of the week. I have a sleepy puppy asleep on the base of the stand that's holding up my phone. So if you notice a bit of wobbling, I don't have the heart to wake him up and move him. So we might be a little bit all over the place, but hopefully we won't knock it over or anything. Um, so this is a big week. I mean, the whole March of April are big, so you're probably going to get really bored of hearing me say this, but this is a big week. So we have the final solar eclipse that's happening in Aries. So this has been going on since 2023. We've been having eclipses on the Aries Libra axis. So this Aries eclipse is the last Aries eclipse we're going to be having within that cycle, and then we'll be moving into a Virgo and Pisces eclipses from that point forward. So we only have eclipses in this setup once every 18 years. So eclipses bring big energy, big new beginnings, big endings. And it's not that, like, when eclipses are happening, that they happen in one area of your chart and then they're over and then we move on, right? Eclipses set up a journey which is then embarked on over the midway point, which is about 9 years in, and then 18 years completes the full cycle. So it's not that, okay, this eclipse is it, and then that's it. We'll just crack on with life and forget it ever happened. This is almost like just a beginning point. It's a seeding point, and then, the journey will continue to unfold. So the things that are happening in this area of life now are incredibly significant, and they have been for the last like 18 months or so. And that will continue to evolve. So it's the sort of thing when you look back, and I think astrology can be so helpful in hindsight, because when you look back, that's often when you realize, wow, that was actually the moment when that thing started, and now my life has taken this trajectory, and I never would have expected it to. So it is really important to just take note of what's happening around eclipses, and also when things are happening in that area of life around eclipse seasons, as well as also other significant transits. It helps you to understand that thing that's come up, that thing that's happened, maybe would have more significance and more impact on the direction of your life than it would if there wasn't anything significant happening in that area of your chart. It might feel big in the moment, but then you move on and actually it didn't really change your direction in some way. So, the things that are happening in this area, sometimes even when they seem not that significant, can be the thing that is, steering the ship, essentially. Okay, so we've got eclipse this week. Eclipses bring unstable energy, big endings, a very, very significant new beginning. We have more transitions layering on top of our seasonal transitions. So we had the equinox last week, the spring equinox. So we've officially moved into the spring season and also into Aries season as well. So we've got this tone shift of like autumn to winter. We're in the transition still. So these transitions, even though obviously we have a certain day when we're officially in the spring, energy is not it's not so final as like, okay, we're this until this time and then now we're this. And it's not like a stepping over the threshold moment. It's flux. So it's a lot more of a slow build, like almost like a graph. Like we build up and then we build and then we go down. So depending on the planet, depending on how fast it moves, depending on what the astrological event is, determines maybe how long the transitions are. So in Chinese medicine, I often talk about the elements of Chinese medicine to help me medicine to help me illustrate this. So the transition between seasons, so equinoxes and solstices, is where the earth element becomes more prevalent. So each season is ruled by a specific element. And then as we transition between each season, the earth element comes in, and that's all about keeping us grounded and centered and aware as we transition through the season. So the earth element is very, very present right now. Again, eclipses bring very unstable energy. A lot of astrologers advise not working intentionally with eclipses, which is essentially, this one is essentially a new moon, where you're often encouraged to set intentions, be clear about what direction you're going in within that specific month. And, I would say use your own judgment and decide whether or not eclipses are right to set intentions under, or whether they are. However, be aware that because the energy is unstable and we're also in this transition, it's just a lot about groundedness and being present and responding to what comes, as opposed to trying to control and and intentionally manifest something, because it's things that are going to be coming a lot more left field, and maybe things that are a bit more unexpected. So, the best thing in these seasons that you can do is just remain grounded and build your consciousness and awareness and just observe, because what's coming to you is significant and important, and you don't necessarily need to control the direction of things. So again, we've got these transitions happening into the new season, but we've also got Mercury and Venus both on their retrograde journey moving back into Pisces. So we've kind of got, again, as I mentioned last week and the week before, we've got this ending coming, like the new beginnings and endings. So we've got a lot of planets in Aries trying to do their thing, but we've also got this backwards moving energy and a lot of planets moving back into Pisces, which is the final sign of the zodiac, and it's all about letting go, shedding, like releasing, dissolving, kind of just clearing out. Whereas Aries energy is like new beginnings, the new spark of something. It's the spring season, it starts things, it's the initiatory spark of the whole entire zodiac wheel. So we've got this push-pull, we've got these planets that were retrograding through Aries and are now moving back into Pisces, and then we've got the spring energy trying to move forward. We've got the Aries eclipse with the North Node, a new beginning trying to move forward. So there's this real sense of endings and beginnings all blurring into one. So if you're kind of finding you can't move things forward, do not worry about it. It's absolutely a part of the process at the moment. And if we can ground and be centered and pay attention, that's how we can navigate these periods of time in the best possible way. So what else did I want to touch on before we dive into the astrology? We are now officially in Aries season, as I mentioned. So we've had a bit of a shift in tone from last week. There's a lot more watery energy, but again, it's this split between the fiery Pisces energy, Aries energy, and then the watery, slow, compassionate, emotional Pisces energy. So it's a lot about striking a balance over the next week and kind of moving forward. So I think that's all I wanted to touch on. Yeah, also we've got a waning moon this week, so that we've got the eclipse coming up at the end of the week. So the moon is waning throughout the week towards that eclipse. So with the shift back into Pisces energy, there's a lot of like introspective, reflective energy this week, and also a little bit of a sense of like something's brewing, something's new. I'm almost ready to jump off the starting block. So again, being grounded and present will really help you navigate this in the best possible way, not your conditioned mind telling you what you should be doing, but really paying attention to how's my energy feeling, what can I respond to, and also what can I cleanse and let go of to create space for this new stuff that's really starting to take root. Okay, so let's get into the astrology of the week. So on Monday, the 24th of March, we have the Sun in Aries conjunct Mercury retrograde in Aries, and this is what we call a cazimi. This is the midpoint of the retrograde. Venus and Mercury, when they have their retrogrades, it's when they're close to the Sun. So Mercury has been moving backwards. It's going to make a conjunction with the Sun, which is when the energy blends together. The Sun kind of shines a light on things. It's going to continue to move backwards, and then it's going to station direct, and then they'll move forwards in that way. So this is happening at 4 degrees of Aries, and it's a period of self-review, this. So it really is a time to slow down and pay attention. And this is what I was saying with this kind of push-pull, like the Sun in Aries wants to get things going. It wants to start new things, but the Mercury retrograde in Aries is almost pulling you inward. So it's still a period of introspection, even though there's like whispers and shoots starting to show that want to really push forward. So Monday could be a day where things really start to come to light, and they are important. So Mercury retrogrades, because it's in Aries, it's all about your relationship to self, maybe how you see yourself, maybe how you think about yourself, a period of self-review, reviewing your relationship to self. For example, Aries is the self, Mercury is the mind, how we form ideas, how we express ourselves, how we communicate. And with that going inwards, it's a time to turn inwards and notice. So when it makes a conjunction with the sun shines a light, and it helps us to understand. It's almost like a moment of clarity, like, okay, this is what this period of time is trying to teach me. So even though you may get clarity on something this week, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's time to jump into action straight away. Like, this is still a period of self-review. And with Mercury about to then make the ingress back into Pisces, there's potential to let go of something here. So it would be really helpful on Monday to notice maybe what, like, with this period of self-review, really pay attention to, okay, what is this period of time teaching me about my relationship to myself, or how I see myself, and what maybe do I need to let go of before I can then move forward. So it might be with this Kazemi that you get a moment of clarity where you're like, oh, okay, this is the direction that I want to go in for myself. However, because it's still moving backwards, actually maybe thinking about, okay, well, what might get in the way? What might get in the way of me actually taking this? Is it confidence? Is it worried about worrying about what other people might think of you? Is it is there any self-sabotage there? Do you have patterns of self-sabotage that maybe need to be released? Because Mercury then going back into Pisces gives us an opportunity to let go and cleanse, especially with that Neptune conjunction that's coming as it moves back into Pisces. Neptune dissolves physical form, like it dissolves things. So having that conjunction with Neptune is really nice to kind of shift, shed, let go. We've got that waning moon this week as well, heading towards the eclipse. So early in the week, the moon is waning. Waning moons are all about letting go, shedding, decomposing, releasing to create space. Because if we don't have space, then we can't bring new things in. So again, this is a really helpful point. It's a period of reviewing, looking backwards, refining. There is a lesson here for you, so pay attention. This is Ronnie. He likes to look longingly out the window for most of the day. On Tuesday, the 25th of March, Mercury retrograde in Aries, then sextiles Pluto in Aquarius at 3 degrees. So it's gonna make the conjunction with the sun and then move on to sextile Pluto. So these transits aren't super separate because they're happening 1 degree apart. There's almost like a blending of all of these energies. So this further emphasizes the journey of transformation I spoke about last week. So Venus is slightly ahead of Mercury here. It's already made this conjunction to the sun and to Pluto, and now Mercury is coming along behind it and doing the same thing. So the Venus is about relationships, pleasure, how we relate to others. It can be your relationship to self with it being in Aries. And then Mercury is the mind, how we express ourselves, how we form ideas, how we communicate. So it's a lot about self. They are personal planets, so it is about you. And with the sextile to Pluto, again, as I mentioned last week, there's real potential here for personal transformation. So this period of review this week is so incredibly powerful before this Aries eclipse, like this new beginning, because there's a real opportunity here to notice, okay, what is this period of time teaching me? And this is where knowing your astrology chart or having a look in your chart, finding where Aries and Pisces are in your chart will give you so much clarity on what area of life these planets are activating for you. Is it your 9th house of long distance travel and your 10th house of career? Is it, or higher education, spirituality, all those things? Is it your 11th house of friendships and groups and organizations, and your 12th house of like mental health, hidden things, all that kind of stuff? So it's super personal to each person, and it does really, really depend on what area of your chart this is activating. So have a little look at your chart if you haven't already. Pluto is also power. So this could be powerful words, powerful conversations, powerful insights into self. And also self-empowerment as well. This could be a period of time, especially with this introspective energy, Mercury moving backwards. It could really encourage you to notice and really take ownership of something that maybe you were a bit too scared to do in the past. So this will give you an opportunity to claim something and be like, this is what I need to deal with, or this is how I'm going to move forward. And Pluto will give you the empowerment, the self-empowerment, with this being an Aries Aquarius sextile, to be able to do that. So really, really potent couple of days, big energy. However, because it's a sextile, it is supportive. So great time to do personal reflection, any inner work that you are doing. Guys, on the membership, we've got some really, really amazing journal prompts for you this week around that personal transformation, especially connected to the work we've been doing on the membership in terms of like connecting with that core unfettered intrinsic self and how we can transform our relationship to that part of ourselves. So I'd really, really encourage you to make the most of this energy because it's helpful. Okay. So moving on, then Thursday, the 27th of March, we've got Venus retrograde, which has already made that conjunction to the Sun and the sextile to Pluto last week, and it's now retrograding and ingressing back into Pisces, and then Mercury is going to follow along in a couple of days. So they're kind of doing the same thing. So this is a real shift in tone here. So as I mentioned, we've got we've had these planets have been in Aries for a while, so it's a bit more fiery, it's a bit more forward moving, it's a bit more self-focused, it's more about action. Whereas Venus hopping back on into Pisces is a real shift in tone, and we've got Mercury going there as well. It's moving from the hot, fiery, active Aries to very, very slow, present, compassionate, gentle, creative Pisces. So it's moving from a more heated, like self-oriented place into the sign of its exaltation, the sign where Venus does really well. So Venus isn't so happy in Aries, and it doesn't operate in its normal, like fullest form, whereas Pisces it does. So there's almost a sense of shifting from maybe a bit icky, like not necessarily bad, because I don't necessarily think planets in the full are inherently negative, but they give us they just give us an interesting expression of that planet. So, however, with it moving back into Pisces, there might suddenly be a moment of reprieve or a little bit more ease on this retrograde journey. So, it's a time to really connect to what needs to be released, let go of, or shed to create space for the new. So again, we've drummed up some stuff since it's been in Aries. It's moved forward through Aries. We've got clarity on what, and then we've moved backwards. We've made the conjunction with the Sun. There's a moment of clarity. We're getting to the heart of the matter of the retrograde journey, which is a journey down into the underworld. And we're now on our way back up to the surface with a moment of clarity before we then move forward. So it's almost like we're here, we've gone backwards, we're period reviewing, we're keeping on moving backwards, but we're coming up out of the deep, dark depths of something. We're on the surface and then we move forward, right? So that we've got the clarity, we've done the work, and now there's a moment of cleansing before we then move forward. So again, letting go, shedding, decomposing. And also a great time to reflect on what has been happening in this area of life since the end of January and February, because that was when Venus was last here. So it will have kicked up some dust around then. It will have kicked up some themes around relationships, around whatever area of your chart that this is falling in. And that's going to continue to kind of resolve itself before we then move forward. So again, a great time for introspection, shedding, letting go, all of those things I've been banging on about for the last 20 minutes or so. And then once it heads back into Pisces, it's then going to make a conjunction with Neptune. So Neptune's at 29 degrees of Pisces right at the end. It emphasizes this shift back into Pisces with like a double Pisces energy, because Neptune and Pisces, Neptune is the modern ruler of Pisces. So they're very, very similar in themes of energy. It's a great day to rekindle your relationship with spirit, with life, with your emotional realm. Venus is relationships. Pisces represents spirituality, emotions, compassion, creativity, all of those things. This is a beautiful creative energy, not a day for clarity, not a day for kind of committing to concrete things. Again, with Mercury retrograde, that kind of really emphasizes that. There's a haze that comes with Neptune transits. And again, it's like, are you going to surrender and just accept what is, because that's when you'll get the most out of that energy? Or are you going to resist it, push against it, and try to move in a direction you think you should be, but actually the energy is trying to send you in an opposite direction because you need to complete this journey before moving forward? So this can be, there's potential here though to be a little bit over idealistic, because Neptune is like dreams and also like things that aren't real and tangible. It can be a little bit confusing and hazy. So, just remembering to stay grounded is probably one of the most important tips throughout the whole of this week, because that Neptune energy can kind of make us dreamy to the point where we'll float away and not really be connected with real tangible life. Okay, and then on Saturday, the 29th of March, we've got that partial solar eclipse happening in Aries at 9 degrees of Aries. So again, have a look at where this is falling in your chart. If it's activating any personal planets in and around that point, this may be a more significant solar eclipse for you than maybe for other people. So this is the final eclipse of this kind happening in Aries for a few decades. It's a North Node eclipse that began its cycle back in April 2023, as I mentioned before. So North Node eclipses, they are, and with having a new moon here, North Node eclipses are pushing us in a certain direction. We're being pushed to grow and evolve into this area of life. There's something here for us to learn. It can be a little bit insatiable. There's like a hunger there, and we're being pushed to focus on it. Now, it's not necessarily because modern astrology associates the North Node with like life purpose, like future collective destiny. And it's not that that's wrong, but I think that it can sometimes be perceived as maybe a very, very positive thing. Like the North Node is something that it's like it's our soul's purpose, it's where we're being called to move towards. And yes, it's a direction, and yes, we're being pushed there. But I don't necessarily feel like because the North Node is in a certain area that it's always healthy, that it's always the best thing ever, but it's just the area of life we're being called to focus on, right? So it'll kick up some lessons for us to learn, like eclipses do that. As I mentioned, it kind of starts something, but you might find that you don't actually integrate those lessons until we have the nodal reversal where the South Node moves here and then we're being pushed, and the North Node's in Libra and it's pushing us into the opposite area of our chart. So we're being pushed to let go of Aries stuff and being North Node pushing us into the Libra stuff. So at the moment, the South Node's in the Libra area of our chart asking us to let go. Well, it's not anymore, it's moved, but in the Aries Libra axis, it's been pushing us to let go. It's not an area of focus for us now. Right now, we're being pushed in a different direction, right? And it's not that we need to complete that journey, but that journey begins there. And then you might find that in 9 years, when those nodes flip around, that's when you'll actually be like, oh, that's what that period of time is all about. And now I've integrated that area of life. So again, pay attention what's happened in this area of your life in the Aries and Libra axis since April 2023, because that's when this journey began. This is a North Node eclipse and it's a new moon. So new moons are new beginnings. North Node eclipses are pushing us in a direction. So again, we're in Aries, we're having a new beginning. The North Node's pushing us to do. And then we've got these Pisces energy kind of moving us backwards, and the retrogrades going, no, 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 let's let go of some stuff. Let's review. Let's not move forward just yet. So, just be with that push-pull. Both energies are important and both are relevant. It's not to say, no, don't do that, do this. Actually, both are there. So this is again where the grounding can be so helpful, because if you're present in your body and you're paying attention to where energy is leading you and you're aware, which is what Earth can help you with, is building consciousness. If you have awareness and consciousness of your patterns, of your conditioning, if you're really clear on, okay, I'm being called to take this action. Why? What's underneath this? What's happening? And being intentional with where you're directing your energy, you can navigate this period of time. For some people, they might be ready to jump into action, and that kind of letting go and cleansing is going to happen naturally anyway. So it's not that don't take action. However, just being aware that there is a lot of introspective, backwards moving energy that's kind of encouraging us not to go full speed ahead. And then we've got these new, fresh new beginning energies as well that want us to start something. So a little bit of presence, a little bit of patience, and a little bit of just responding to what comes, I feel like can be the most helpful thing to do in this period of time. Okay, and then on Sunday, the 30th of March, we then have what Venus has done with Mercury. So Mercury is then going to retrograde back into Pisces, and then it's going to conjoin Neptune at 29 degrees pretty much straight away. So Mercury is shifting from a clearer place. Like Mercury is much happier in Aries than it is in Pisces. Pisces has no tangibility. Mercury likes clear-cut decisions, like facts, information, clarity. So it's moving from a clearer place into muddier waters, and like what may have been clear before now kind of becomes cloudy and hazy and intangible. So we might have had a moment of clarity with that Aries, with that Sun Mercury conjunction in Aries on Monday, and then things might get a little bit confusing, but that's okay. This is part of the journey, right? We need to be in this Piscean cleansing before we can then move forwards and actually then start taking the action of whatever the clarity was that came with that Sun Mercury conjunction on Monday. So it's okay if you can't move forward, if you're feeling confused, if things kind of become very unclear. Surrender. Pisces is surrender. Neptune is surrender. So if you're surrendered and present and just open, I think, to potential, and that's what Pisces is like, that space between life and death, that just pure infinite potential, like everything and nothing. So it's okay if things aren't clear. There needs to be another seeding point before we move forward, and that's okay. And again, it's only our resistance to energy that creates a negative experience of it. So yeah, there's something you're being invited to wrap up, take ownership of the coming weeks, listen, pay attention, and ask for guidance as well. Pisces energy is very connected. It's about spirituality. It's about your relationship, especially with Venus there as well. It's your relationship to spirit, to God, to life, whatever, to the universe, to your higher self, whatever you kind of resonate with. So listening, pay attention, but also ask. Like, you don't have to, if you're not sure, send me a sign, make the next step clear. Like, you can have that communication, like Mercury in Pisces, communication with spirit, like that is something that is so, so potent when we're having a Mercury transit, especially retrograde as well. Like, even having a conversation with like your higher self, doing some journaling around that, it could be an incredibly powerful time to do that. So another thing just to note, like, try and avoid signing documents, making formal commitments, finalizing plans until this period of time is over. Triple check everything if you need to. Again, life does not stop because of astrology. So if you need to, sign a document, if you're buying a house and it so happens that it falls on this date, that's fine, whatever. It's okay. However, pay attention and just triple check everything. So I'm having a little bit of a transit with my ninth house right now, and like Mercury retrograde, travel plans, Mercury retrograde, not the best thing to be doing at that period of time. However, a trip has fallen over this period of time, and I've decided to go, right? I want to go. I've checked in with my intuition. Like, it feels right for me to go. It feels right for me to do that. So it's not about saying, okay, no, Mercury is retrograde, I couldn't possibly go on this trip, but actually just being like, okay, Mercury is retrograde. We know what we're working with here. How can we make sure that we are triple checking the flight details, checking in on time, making sure you have everything with you, triple checking your list, making sure you've got all of the things, like, because we know there's potential for things to maybe go wrong in others, like, or not go wrong, or there might be difficulty, or there might be a lack of clarity, there's hazy energy happening there, then we're aware, okay, well, this is what we're working with, so we know we need to do this to then counteract that and do, like, in the best possible way. But again, great day for creative thinking, abstract thought, artistry, artistic expression. Like, something great to do under Pisces energy would be like art therapy, going deep within, healing, clearing out, cleansing through spiritual connection or creativity, something along those lines. So painting, identifying there's an issue, like an emotional issue or a pattern that needs to be solved, but using some form of art therapy to kind of release that can be incredibly powerful under a lot of Pisces energy, particularly with this Venus creativity anyway. Like, Venus is very creative, and Mercury helps us process. So there's so much potential there, actually. So it is an exciting time, and there's lots to be worked with. And again, Mercury retrograding through Pisces is going to conjunct Neptune, which is the same thing, dissolving, confusing, lots of beautiful time for creativity, all of those things. So that was a lot. There's a lot to go through in this week's update. But again, ground. I can't say it enough. Be connected with yourself, be connected with with life. Keeping centered and connected to your sense of self is the most powerful thing you can do over the next week. In terms of those of you who are on the membership, or those of you, if you listen to these readings and you want a little bit of extra support, you can come and join us for, even if it's just a month, and just make the most of these practices and prompts that we've got to support you, because it is such a big time. And astrology is really helpful to understand, but not necessarily when we're not then being like, okay, being informed and then using that to inform how we move forward, right? It's helpful to be aware, of course it is, but then it's like, okay, well, what do we do with this, right? And that's when, we can get into somatic practices and exercises that can help us like logically process what is actually happening, and that can really help us direct our energy in our life more intentionally. So there's a great practice that we've got on the membership this week, which is reprogram self-sabotage and live an aligned and joyful life. It's an EFT tapping session, 20 minutes, which is all about reprogramming, letting go of any self-sabotaging patterns that get in the way of you living from an authentic, core, unfettered self. So it's a really, really powerful and helpful practice. It's led by Leanne, who is my Handpicked Life co-creator. And it will really help you with this like cleansing Pisces energy. I feel like it's such a useful practice to use to kind of shed and let go. We've also got on the recommended practices from the library, we've got ground and transition in times of change, which is an energy technique and meditation session all about staying grounded and navigating periods of time. So again, great for eclipses, great for the transition through the spring equinox, great for the shift back into Pisces energy from Aries. Everything's going to feel a little bit ungrounding. So if we can ground and transition effectively, this week is going to go much, much, much more smoothly. We've got a 20-minute meditation on tapping into your inner guidance, and then a really amazing session of balancing the 5 elements. It's an energy technique and yoga session where we work through the peak poses of all of the elements in the Chinese medicine wheel. And when we go through periods of transition, it gives us an opportunity to reset our energy diagnostically. So we're not maybe out of balance in one area or like too heavy in another. It gives us an opportunity to reset your whole system so you're then aligned with the energy that's around. So fantastic session to use now, especially with all the tone shifts. And then the journal prompts for this week. We've also got the spring equinox dance the elements session as well, which was we recommended last week. We're still in the equinox energy for the next week. So again, if you haven't had a chance to use that yet, please go back and use one of those dance sessions just to stay in the spring equinox. It's such amazing sessions. And then journal prompts for this week are really helping take advantage of that waning moon and also this energy into Pisces. So we're reflecting on the core unfettered self, what you've learned about that, what you need to let go of to move forward, which is very that Pisces, Aries stuff. And then also a little bit of eclipse reflection and also transformation around like the personal transformation that Pluto sextile is really kicking up with these retrogrades and also this eclipse season. So some great reflective journal prompts to really get into. As I mentioned, when we have a look at astrology, I've never really I definitely have seen this, but it's rare that there's such a clear message. So when there is such a clear message within a week, it's so important to pay attention because it's almost like I see this when I read charts for people. When someone has got like everything linked back to a certain area, like you're looking at a human design chart, everything is in the throat. When that happens, it's almost like the universe is like, right, I'm going to make this really fucking simple for you. Sorry, excuse my French, because you didn't learn it in the last lifetime. So this lifetime, you're going to get it, right? It's like, this is important. Pay attention, pay attention, pay attention. So when all of the energy is aligned and matching up and it's directing us in a certain way, when it's all layering, but it has the same message, it is so important to use it because the universe wants you to, right? The world wants you to, whatever, like, your connection with this stuff is, like, we are being called to take ownership of this period of time. So do not miss this opportunity. There is so much power in the next couple of weeks. Stay grounded, stay present, stay conscious. I love you all. I'll see you in the next reading.